The busy day in the NHL news cycle continues. We have another NHL trade to discuss, this time a four-player swap between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll get into all the details coming up next. Welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we had a busy day of NHL news with some signings. We had a trade happen earlier in the day, and now we have here yet another one, a four-player swap involving the Chicago Blackhawks as well as the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes trade defenseman Calvin Haan, who we can probably say is the biggest piece in this trade, along with forward Alexei Saarela, who's a prospect at this point, over to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for goaltender Anton Forsberg and defenseman Gustav Forsling. Now, it's been rumored for some time that the Carolina Hurricanes were likely going to trade a defenseman, except we did not expect it to be Haan. We expected it to be one of their right-side defensemen, whether it be Justin Falk or Dougie Hamilton, or maybe even Brett Pesce. But obviously this is kind of coming out of nowhere here in a way, as we did not expect the Hurricanes to be dealing Haan. But they do have a lot of defensemen on their team, and maybe they'll end up moving here more than one. Haan was only signed last year to a contract with the Carolina Hurricanes as a free agent. He had spent the first part of his career for a long time with the New York Islanders. He's 28 years old now. He's a pretty solid defensive defenseman. Played a fair bit for the Hurricanes last year. Like I said, pretty solid defensively. You're not going to get a lot of points out of him, but he is good in his own end. That is something that the Blackhawks had been rumored to be looking for, so obviously he'll be a nice addition here. In Alexei Saarela, the Hawks also get themselves a pretty solid prospect. Now, he has not played any NHL games here as of yet. However, in the minor leagues, he certainly looks to be pretty solid. Like, he can play center and the wing. He's played 148 games in the American Hockey League and put up 107 points over parts of 3 seasons. There was the first year he only played 10 games, and then the last 2 he's played 69 games each. So overall, I must say he's had a pretty solid career so far in the minor leagues. He's been developing well, so we'll see if he can get an opportunity here with Chicago to get any playing time. But overall, I must say, he's a pretty decent looking prospect here to go along with Calvin Haan on their way to Chicago. Now, in return, the Carolina Hurricanes get themselves a goaltender in Anton Forsberg. As we know, they're kind of short on goaltenders right now, seeing that McElhinney and Mrazek are both unrestricted free agents. And GM Don Waddell had expressed concerns in the past couple days that he may not be able to sign either one. Negotiations have not gone well so far. Mrazek, I think, is looking for more money and more term than what they're willing to offer. I mean, he was the starter for most of the year and had a pretty decent season, but I'm not sure the Hurricanes are looking to give the terms that he's looking for right now. So we'll see if he finds any other opportunities. He could possibly circle back and still remain in Carolina. Hard to say. Same goes for Curtis McElhinney. Not sure exactly what the sticking points are on the negotiations there. But McElhinney's been pretty solid the last couple of years as one of the better backups around the NHL. So we'll see what happens with either of those. But either way, Forsberg gives them some goaltending depth, gives them some goaltending insurance. He very well could play in the American Hockey League. He could be a backup at the NHL level. He did get into a fair bit of games this past year with the Blackhawks, where Corey Crawford was out injured for a long period of time here yet again. So obviously he does have some NHL experience. Forsberg's 26 years old, has 45 NHL games under his belt. His stats are okay, like he didn't do too badly, but certainly not a starting goaltender at this point in his career. Obviously needs to be a backup and still kind of learn to hone his craft here for future opportunities. Obviously with the Hurricanes being short in goaltending depth, he'll certainly help in that regard. Obviously, the biggest part of this trade is Calvin Haan, a left shot defenseman, going to the Hawks, but of course the Carolina Hurricanes also get a left shot defenseman in return as well in Gustav Forsling. He was originally a Vancouver Canucks draft pick back in 2014. But he's been a member of the Blackhawks organization for some time now. Over the past 3 seasons, he's got into 122 games with the Blackhawks and put up 27 points. So not the most offensive output, but when he was younger, before he was drafted, and early in his developmental days after being drafted, he was viewed upon as being a fairly solid offensive defenseman. The concerns on him were at that point were that he might struggle with the defensive side of the game. He's not the heaviest guy. He's 6 feet tall, around 180 pounds. Many thought he might have trouble with the physical side of the game on the defensive end, but the offensive output might be what keeps him in the NHL and allows him to really thrive as a kind of a newer age NHL defenseman. But yet we haven't really seen that from him here as of yet. Hasn't really had the most opportunity to play the offensive role with Chicago either. So I guess we will see how Forsling makes out in Carolina. We're considering the depth that they have over there. I'm not really sure he's going to get much more of an opportunity than he did in Chicago. But either way, a swapping of 4 players here. The Carolina Hurricanes get themselves some goaltending depth. They get a younger defenseman than Haan, so they save a little bit of money that way. And the Blackhawks get a more experienced defensive defenseman into Haan that they probably could really benefit from, as well as a pretty decent prospect. So normally we say whoever gets the best player in the trade wins the trade. And right now, obviously, that would be Chicago getting Haan. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Who wins this trade? Who do you think has the better end of the deal here? And we'll continue the conversation in the comment section. So stay tuned to Top Shelf Hockey. There should be all kinds of NHL news here coming up over the next few weeks as we approach free agency. There should be more trades, more signings, and plenty to talk about. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.